What is a decentralized network? What is it? How does it work? Right? Because it's not just chaos. I mean, it's obviously not a normal organization. So what is it? That's what we're going to talk about today. What are decentralized networks? What's their structure? How are they born? How do they evolve? How do we compete with them? How do we deal with them? And we're going to provide a new framework. And the fun part of it is the solution is going to come from biology by looking at the starfish and the spider. Because if we look at these two creatures, right, superficially they look similar. They've got a lot of arms or legs. Internally, their physiology is perfectly dissimilar. It's different. If we look at how their biology is different internally, you get a new management model that you can use for looking at any organization. So let's start with a spider. I have a garden spider here, furry body in the middle, head on top, 4 legs on each side. If you cut off a leg from an adult spider, what happens? Right. We get a crippled 7-legged spider. In some juveniles, they can grow back, but adults can't. You get a crippled 7-legged spider. But if you cut the head of a spider off, what happens? Yeah, it dies. It dies. And we know intuitively that it dies. But there's a reason that it dies. The specific reason, it's a centralized organism. And it can't live without its central nervous system and its brain, which is its command center. Okay? So that's a centralized organism there on the right, the spider. When I went to business school, when most of us went to business school or studied organizations, we studied spider organizations. There was always a CEO on top. There was always a clear structure of VPs or geographies. So whether it was a functional organization or a matrix organization, it was very clear, had specific organs like finance, hierarchy like a spider. But the world is being swayed today and powerfully overtaken by a different species of organizations. And those organizations are a lot more like the starfish. So this starfish here is the blue Linkia. The blue Linkia is an amazing starfish. Like most starfish, if we cut off one of those 5 arms, what happens? Yeah, right. It grows back. The amazing thing is in the blue Linkia, if we cut off all 5 of those arms, guess what happens? 5 new starfish. Yes. Isn't that amazing? Each arm can regenerate an entire new creature. Now, why can it do it? Because it's perfectly decentralized. The Linkia starfish does not have a single essential central organ. The only central organ is a nerve ring that connects the neural networks in each of the arms. Each of the arm has its own stomach underneath in that slit. It has its own muscles. It has its own intelligence to move, to smell food, to grab onto food, pull food in. Each arm can live alone. But each arm is part of the joint starfish when they come together. But the starfish is a beautiful representation of a decentralized organization. So all we have to remember in looking at organizations is, are we looking at a spider? Or are we looking at a starfish-style organization? But we have to know, because they're going to respond very differently. Because you can't cut the head of a starfish off. It doesn't have a head. And if you cut off an arm, you may just get more starfish. In fact, some starfish even reproduce themselves by tearing themselves in half and regenerating as an option. And I would argue that the most important trend in business, society, politics, government, and education today is that swing back. That swing from centralization, top-down power control, to flat. Whether it's in publishing, classified advertisements, TV, everything is going atomic, decentralized, what you want, where you want, on your phone, on your computer. That's the big trend that we're talking about. So you can use this same framework for your own organization at any time and map out where you sit and where you think you want to go. Now, actually, I drove down here today. I've had another event in Santa Barbara yesterday, and I drove my blue Prius. Now, the Prius, is that an electric car or is that a gas car? It's both. It's a hybrid. And organizations, too, are not either starfish or necessarily spiders. They can be both. They can be somewhere in the middle, okay? And Toyota is a great example. Toyota, if you look at the paperwork and the annual report, looks like a total top-down spider organization. But you go to the production line, and who's in charge? The workers. Any worker in a Toyota production line can hit the button and stop the whole line at any time. It's now true for most car manufacturers, but they pioneered it over 20 years ago. They pushed that power down and they decentralized their organization. So they're a spider organization structurally, but if you look at their management philosophy, it's to push the power and the innovation down as far as they can in the organization. They're a hybrid. eBay. How many people here use eBay? And what do you like to look for on eBay? Price. You look for price and what you want. Okay, I'm an eBay power shopper too. Now, why are we talking about eBay? Okay, we're talking about eBay because it's a hybrid. If we look at the org chart, we know there's a leader of eBay, right? Who's the CEO of eBay? Meg Whitman. Meg Whitman's in charge, okay? The catalyst, the guy who helped to create it, is Piero Magliar. But Meg is a CEO. Her organization looks very hierarchical at some level, okay? But the power of eBay is in the buyers and the sellers. Some of whom are satisfied, some of whom are not satisfied. But guess what dissatisfied customers can do in eBay? They can rate the sellers immediately. And so a community has been developed that's very rich. So the power of eBay is not in the 8,000 or 10,000 employees. It's in the 200 million of us that are part of their decentralized network, buying and selling whatever we want. And they don't seek to control that unless it's a legal substance. So fascinating hybrid organization. Intuit, same thing. They were facing a challenge in their tax planning business. They had a competitor that had huge tax knowledge in their database, and they couldn't compete with that. You know what they did? They started a wiki. They started a wiki called Tax Almanac so their customers could put in advice to each other, and it's absolutely taken off and transformed their business. So it's an example of a traditional organization opening up to these principles and changing. This is a Starfish car. It's called a Tesla. Has anyone heard of the Tesla? Yeah, I see you nodding. You know, the car aficionados, we love this car, right? This is an exciting car. This is an electric car that is faster than a Ferrari Spider. Why are we talking about this car as a Starfish car? Here's why. This car company has no manufacturing plants. Not one. Their global offices are about to move into a car dealership about 1.5 miles from my home on El Camino Real in Menlo Park. It's a bunch of designers, engineers, software designers, marketing, and others. They're outsourcing entirely the development of this car to Lotus and to Flextronics. It's a phenomenal car, super high performance, and people are so excited about it, they've already sold, I believe, over 500 of them in advance. And to buy it in advance, you have to put 75% of your cash down and wait for a year or two. Okay? So Tesla's an example. So this is a new car company redefining automobiles, because we used to think of electric cars as what? PUD cars, right? Slow, PUD cars. This thing is a rocket. So it's redefining the category, Starfish decentralized organization, and how it's built. So let's look at the auto industry then on our map. So GM, right, it was the consolidation of many different companies. Chevrolet, Buick, Oldsmobile, Cadillac, GM. They pulled all these things together and made a gargantuan organization. So they centralized. Tesla is on the other side of the scale, bottom right, very decentralized. Okay? Very exciting new play, very successful so far.